enhance instruction, Imagine Learning provides students with their individualized program and actionable data that informs instruction. Principal Sharon Mitchell Goodat notes this program gives every child an opportunity to acquire foundational language and literacy skills he or she needs to succeed in the classroom and beyond. So if the team from Mark Twain would please come forward at this time.
Next is Acceleration Academy graduate Trey Sampson, enrolled in Acceleration Academy last spring. Oh!
It's all just going to be a bit funky tonight. We'll get through it. Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, we're going to rewind. And I'm going to talk a little bit about good news in District 2. So, if the Nautilus Literacy Team is here, Principal Stacy Lucas and anyone from the Literacy Team might come up front as I read a little bit about you. Over 440 family members and 239 students at Nautilus K-8 participated in an evening literacy event hosted by the Nautilus Literacy Team with support from the Family Community Partnership Office. Family liaisons are trained to ensure that their work with families informs, prepares, and connects parents in the shared responsibility of promoting student success. Using research-based practices, the district can ensure all schools are supported in their efforts to connect with families. Families at the Read Aloud received literacy resources for parents, along with sight word packets and games for younger children, milk and cookies, and a free book. Students and parents alike enjoyed seeing staff members dressed as various characters from literature. Principal Stacy Lucas and the Nautilus Literacy Team plan on making this a yearly event. Congratulations to the team from Nautilus.
Well, I too have some good news tonight. First off, Federal Way School District's Fred Bus Summer Program is a recipient of the USDA 2015 Western Region Summer Sunshine Award for reaching rural, tribal, and underserved communities. Fred stands for Fun, Read, Eat, and Dream, and during the past 2 summers has delivered hot food during the summer months to high-need areas. In addition to providing nutritious meals, the buses are equipped with games, books, internet-connected devices, PE teachers, librarians that travel to each site with Fred once a week. A big thank you to Nutrition Services and Director Mary Asplin for your dedication to increase access to summer meals and reduce hardship for students and families in our districts. Kudos are also due to Early Childhood Learning Program and to our many community partners who have made the program possible.
Hello, I'd just like to recognize Carol Matsui, who is a big surprise in the audience. 3 years ago is when Fred, the idea started, and I'm so delighted she's here to see that her legacy is carried on, and I'm just thrilled that she's here tonight to see it. It was blending of the education of children with nutrition, and we're very happy. Thank you.
Next up tonight from Lake Dolph Elementary, they held the math game night for students in conjunction with workshops designed specifically for parents. Organized by the family liaison, Irma Mendoza, parents participated in a Parent 101 workshop in preparation for student-led conferences. Parents discussed engagement opportunities and practices to become effective advocates, and ways to share their insight with teachers and schools so that every student reaches their maximum learning potential. Also, Principal Sarah Gill said that during the parent workshop, the Lake Duluth Family Engagement Action Team taught students several math games that help build number sense. At the beginning of the evening, students and parents gathered together, and students became the teachers demonstrating math games to their parents. A math game night kit was provided to each student with flashcards, dice, playing cards, and game instructions to extend the learning at home. Let's give them a hand. Also tonight we want to recognize Wildwood Elementary 4th grade student Jennifer Torres. And she was the only Federal Way Public School student to participate in the 2015 NFL Punt Pass Kick competition in Seattle. On November 28th. And I got to shake her hand before the meeting tonight, and she crushed my hand. She is one to be reckoned with. Jennifer qualified for the Seahawks team championship round by winning the local punt, pass, and kick competition in her age division, followed by the regional championship in Kent. In the November 28th competition, Jennifer went up against other regional winners from throughout the Northwest, including Alaska and Western Montana, ultimately placing 4th. She received a football and a Seahawks jersey and was the team's guest at the November 29th Seahawks versus Steelers game. Congratulations, Jennifer. We are extremely proud of you.
Could Principal Joni Hall and the team come up to be recognized? In really stark contrast to the Washington State School Directors Association meeting that we held in Spokane, the school students who came out to perform before the school directors, in stark contrast, our team was so diverse. It was really wonderful to see, and they did a fantastic job. In the last 12 years, the Todd Beamer High School dance team has won 8 state championships. The top-placing Titan dance team recently performed at the Washington State Directors 2015 annual conference up in Bellevue. It was called Boundless Potential, showcasing an energetic dance routine. The 23-member team is comprised of boys and girls and coached by Valicia Valiani. Team captains this year are Lane Harden, Joshua Moran, and Natalie Smith. Principal Joni Hall encourages everyone to see the Titan Dance team in action. The team's season officially ends with their annual showcase in May, Beamer Breakdown, featuring signature performances from the team along with guest performers from the greater Seattle area. Congratulations to the Todd Beamer High School dance team.
Okay. This is an absolute honor. As a former high school principal at a traditional school, I would do this for hundreds of students. However, I'm announcing Trey Sampson tonight, and his graduation this evening is very, very important, almost like all of those hundreds combined. Trey Sampson enrolled in an Acceleration Academy last spring. He has attended many schools outside the Federal Way School District before landing at Acceleration Academy. He has been absolutely committed to completing his high school requirements this fall. Trey works hard as a full-time employee at Costco while finishing high school and also working as a potential real estate student. So when I was asked about comments, specific ones about Trey, I'm pretty sure that Trey is going to take over the world. Acceleration Academy was just a jumping off point for him, and my only hope is that he decides to hire me when I apply for a job when he's the supervisor. Trey plans on attending a 2-year college. He's also enrolling as reserve in the military and wants to study science and business, so along the lines with taking over. So welcome, Trey, and we're going to welcome him in. Just a sec, Trey, we're going to play some music for you.
One more round of applause. All right, next we have board recognition of Director Peterson. So Dr. Campbell, start.
So I would just like to start by sharing some of the value-added leadership that Director Peterson has added. You know, as a new superintendent, board superintendent team, one of the things that we have really worked to do is to meld together to move forward with a really healthy board superintendent relationship based on policy governance. And Director Peterson has had some really deep knowledge in this area and has really pushed the learning of the entire group. And I've really respected that. I will also say what I respect about his unique contributions is the commitment he has to a systems approach and advocating for all students versus one or two interests. He's really been disciplined, and that's been another area that you've added value to the board. Lastly, we would have retreats, and Danny would inevitably come up with a quote or a saying that we would all go, yeah, that's a perfect way to describe the work. So I would describe him as insightful and someone who's given a value-added thinking on our work, specifically as we revised our ends. So although it's been a short while, I'm a better superintendent because I had the opportunity to work with Director Peterson.
Board members?
Well, I have to say I enjoyed working with Director Danny Peterson over the year and a few months that I've been on the board as an appointee. He has been the strongest proponent for policy governance, and I think that's his legacy, that he has pushed for continuous improvement in that area. And we've come to better end state outcome statements, and we've got better policies and procedures. And I really think that comes from his background as a firefighter, because when you have policies and procedures and you don't follow them, it's a matter of life and death. And so even though the stakes aren't as high, he truly believed that through correct policies and procedures and continuous improvement, we could improve this organization. And I think the missing piece has been for him the need for a organizational leader who came from the educational community, and we got that done as he heads out. And so I think that really puts our position really well relative to the implementation of policy governance. And as Director Claire Wilson often says, keeping your fingers out of the inner workings, but embracing it all with your arms. And so I'm looking forward to moving forward with policy governance with the strength that Director Peterson has left us with.
Yep. Pretty good legacy.
Danny, Director Peterson. Director Peterson and I came on the same time, so he's ending his 4-year term, and I have the ability to move forward. And together we've come through quite a bit as a district, and I think some rocky times and some great times, and I think we've landed in a nice place. And I have always appreciated having him as a guide on the side. We don't always agree, and the point of a board is that you're not supposed to. And that once decisions are made, we support each other in those decisions. But to get to that place, sometimes you have to experience a bit of disequilibrium. And we're kind of comfortable doing that. And I think because of that, the work that we've been doing and the work that we'll continue to do in our district will kind of live forward. And I have also very much appreciated his understanding around policy governance from a policy and a board member perspective, and how that translates into really the effective work that we're doing and that we hope to continue. And although you may not be sitting here, your space will always be here. So thank you for everything you've done. Yeah.
You know, so when I joined 2 years ago, I was definitely one of the naysayers around what policy governance was. And the work we have done collectively, Director Peterson, over the last year to really get us to where we needed to be and where our Ns and our ELs are going and what we will ultimately do in the next year or so really is your driving force. I mean, when Director Etos said it was your legacy, it definitely is. The piece of, it came in 2010 and you fought the entire time you were here for 4 years through all of it, even though many of us pushed back and wondered if it was the right thing to do. It definitely was. And the other thing that came out of that was the PD that you did individually and that we did collectively as a board this year that has really deepened and entrenched us in policy governance to move us forward. And that really was your push and your drive. So for that, I thank you. Appreciate your service. And one last thing, Superintendent Campbell talked about the piece of it being all, right? And I think sometimes, especially when you have students in this district, it's easy to get sidelined based on what is best for your individual students. And I can tell you that I've fallen in that trap many times, and Director Peterson's questioned it at times, and it helps me rise above because ultimately we're responsible for all 22,000, and you have always done that. So I appreciate that as well. So thank you. Now at this time, I think we have a presentation for Director Peterson, and we'll let. Yeah, we're gonna go down, and I've got a microphone. I got a microphone for you to share down there. Okay. So the plaque says, Danny Peterson, in appreciation for your leadership as a board director and your dedicated service to the staff, students, parents, and community of the Federal Public School District, 2011 to 2015, thank you.
And the quote that's on the bottom says, "We make a living by what we get. We make a life by what we give," by Winston Churchill.
4 years. It's been a long time, a good time. And tonight's bittersweet for me. And first off, I just want to thank all of you that are in the audience that represent the nearly 150,000 people that make up our communities here, and the 23,000 students, the 40 campuses that amass our district. As I have traveled all around our district these past 4 years, I'm blown away by the privilege it's been to be able to represent you. And for 5 of us to be able to make some very big decisions, and for you to entrust us with those decisions. And I had never taken that decision lightly, and I've been honored to have that privilege to be able to serve you in that way. And Claire mentioned it earlier, and there's been some amazing times, some great work. And even in the hard times too, it's been good because we've really worked hard to see some really amazing outcomes. And it's phenomenal the place that we're in today, and it's really exciting for me. Tonight, I just want a couple things. I want to thank our superintendents that we've had. I remember Tom Murphy. He was one of the first people 4.5 years ago when I was like, do I really want to get into this whole thing? And I got him on the phone and started talking to him about what it was, and he was just one of those really encouraging voices. And Rob knew the great work and leadership that he did here for Sally McLean, who did an amazing job serving our schools, and for the amazing catch that we were able to find in Dr. Tammy Campbell. And I am just so pleased that she's our superintendent. I'm excited for our future. As it's mentioned before, I got skin in the game. I got kids that are in this district, and I am so excited for the future of Federal Way Schools and for my kids being a part of this district. And the work that we're doing here, and we're serious about it, and we're not about just sitting back with the status quo. We want to see change, and we're going to contend for that. And that's what makes me excited about this board and about our administration team. And I just also want to thank just the leadership that we have here. The crew over there on the other side that the Vinces and the Cindys and the Rons and it goes down the line throughout the years. All the different people we've had that have just served here and have gone to serve other places, and just you've been a rock solid core in those times. And I've got to witness firsthand the amazing work that you as an executive team do, and how much you pour in, how much you make our schools better, and the work that our community doesn't see that you do behind the scenes. And I'm so grateful for your excellence that you serve, and the time that you put in, and how much you carry the work that you do day in and day out for our students and our teachers and our kids and our community. And it's awesome to watch, and it's been great, the friendships that have been made there. For my friends on the board, and I get to say that tonight. I feel like I'm done here, but we're still friends. And there have been times where I don't know, we're like, maybe we're not friends at this second, but I think we get done and we are friends. And I look forward to opportunities in the future just to continue to, I'm sure you'll find something to call me up to be a part of some committee or something like that. But you are a great group. And tonight I'm excited for soon-to-be Director Liz Drake. And she's already served in our district for so many years. And tonight, District Director 3 is in good hands with you, and I'm excited for the fingerprint you're going to leave on this, and the mark you're going to leave on our district by the time you spend on this board. And I know it's going to be a great job, and I wish the best to you as you start serving tonight your 4 years. Things that I'm going to miss. I'm going to miss the people. I'm going to miss the different schools, walking around, the graduations, the events, the teachers, the amazing staff that we have serving our kids, and the kids, the high fives, the knuckles, the whatever, the hugs that you see, just the amazing group of kids that we have in our different schools. I'm going to miss the graduations and students in this community that I had seen growing up from a child be able to have the privilege to be on that stage down at the Tacoma Dome and shake their hands and having their families out there in the audience and being a part of that special day. And it's been awesome, just those times and those moments. I'm going to miss the work that we got to do, the work that is so important, and it's now mine to let go of and to let you take it, and we get that as a board. And I know one thing being on this board I understand is that this is so much bigger than any one person. And this work continues. It's bigger than just a superintendent or anything. It's what goes forward. And so this legacy and everything continues with some great, amazing people. And Federal Way future is bright. And so, finally, thank you again. Thank you, board. Thank you, superintendent. Thank you, staff. It's been an awesome 4 years. And Federal Way's public school future is bright. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, now if I could have Judge Larson come forward, please. So just to make you all aware, the next thing on the agenda will be for us to swear in our 3 new directors that were elected in this election cycle. So first we will call Claire Wilson forward for Director 2.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Claire Wilson,
I, Claire Wilson,
do hereby solemnly swear
do hereby solemnly swear
that I will support and maintain
that I will support and maintain
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Washington,
the Constitution of the State of Washington,
promote the interests of public education,
promote the interest of public education,
and faithfully and impartially discharge the duties
and faithfully and impartially discharge the duties
of Director District Number 2
of Director District Number 2
of the Federal Way Public School District Number 210,
of the Federal Way Public School District Number 210,
King County, State of Washington,
King County, State of Washington,
as prescribed by law
as prescribed by law
and to the best of my ability.
and to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now for District 3, Liz Drake.
You might have a
Liz.
version, so we're gonna give you that one.
Family, can come up. Yep.
These are my grandchildren. -1. One's too young to come.
Okay, lesson 101, kids. Make sure you're in the picture. So get on this side of Grandma over here. Everybody take pictures that way, and then please going to be. So repeat after me. I, Liz Drake,
I, Liz Drake,
do hereby solemnly swear
do hereby solemnly swear
that I will support and maintain
that I will support and maintain
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Washington,
the Constitution of the State of Washington,
promote the interests of public education,
promote the interests of public education,
and faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of Director District Number 3
the duties of Director of District Number 3
of the Federal Way Public School District
of the Federal Way Public School District,
Number 210,
Number 210,
King County,
King County,
State of Washington,
State of Washington,
as prescribed by law
as prescribed by law
and to the best of my ability.
and to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Yay!
Oh, someone's hiding. Just one more. Big smiles. Thank you.
Liz. Please come take your seat, Director Drake. Yeah. And now for District 5, we will recognize Hirochi Eto. Do his oath.
I, Hiroshi Eto,
I, Hiroshi Eto,
do hereby solemnly swear
do hereby solemnly swear
that I will support and maintain
that I will support and maintain
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Washington,
the Constitution of the State of Washington,
promote the interests of public education,
promote the interests of public education,
and faithfully and impartially discharge
and faithfully and impartially discharge
the duties of Director District Number 5
the duties of Director District Number 5
of the Federal Way Public School District Number 210,
of the Federal Way Public School District Number 210,
King County, State of Washington,
King County, State of Washington,
as prescribed by law
as prescribed by law
and to the best of my ability.
and to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Take shakes a little.
Okay. And now we will actually take a 15-minute recess to celebrate our 3 new directors and also Director Peterson as he exits us as well. 15-minute recess until 6:50. Thank you. So this time I'd like to reconvene the meeting. And we had one misstep. I'd actually like to call Steve Mayer forward at this time for public comment from FWEA.
Good evening, directors and new board. My name is Steve Mayer, and I am the representative from the Federal Way Education Association to the Board of Education. And I appreciate your indulgences over the past many years when we've had a transition. The FWA has been allowed to speak to and about the now former board members. And we want to take this opportunity on behalf of President Brown, on behalf of our executive board, on behalf of all the educators in FWA, and quite frankly, on behalf of myself, to thank Director Peterson for all the work he has done over the past 4 years. It is, believe it or not, relatively unusual to have one of our directors fulfill the entire 4-year term. And we are respectful for those who have gone through an entire 4-year term and stayed the course, so to speak. It has been quite a course to take. I debated in my mind whether I actually ought to use the word tumultuous time that we have had during your 4 years, Director Peterson. I decided to use the word active instead. But there have been a tremendous amount of comings and goings and ups and downs, and yet you have never, as was mentioned earlier today, lacked for vision and lacked for pushing forward with that vision, while at the same time listening, hearing, and trying to understand. And we in the education, as the educators, are directly impacted by decisions that you and the board make. So when you heard us and you listened to us, when you showed up at all the committee meetings that we would have and all the community forums, and you made purposeful steps to go to different of the small table groups and hear what everyone was saying, we were respectful of that and we appreciate that. It's not an easy job. There are things that come and things that go with those jobs, but public service is something that is in your heart. And you served us, and we are thankful very much for that service. And again, on behalf of the FWA, thank you for your time and your service and commitment.
So the next item on the agenda is yearly we also do the election of officers. So at this time, I will call for nominations for president for the 2016 year.
So in honor of her graduation from the leadership program at the Washington State School Directors Association and her subsequent election by regional board directors to be on the board of directors for the statewide Washington State School Directors Association, I want to nominate Director Claire Wilson for president.
Are there any other nominations?
I'd like to nominate Director Jeffrey McAnally for president.
So actually, we have to take a step back. Is there a second for the nomination of Claire Wilson? Hearing none, I'd open it for, are there any other nominations?
I want to thank you. And I would like to nominate Jeffrey McAnally for president.
Nomination for Jeffrey McAnally. Do I hear a second? The nomination and second. Are there any other nominations for president? Are there any other nominations for president? Hearing none, all in favor of Jeffrey McAnally for president, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
It's 2 to 1. It's 3 to 1. So I will seat as the president for 2016. I'll now open the floor for nominations for vice president.
I would like to nominate Claire Wilson for Vice President.
I'll second.
I have a nomination and a second. Are there any other nominations for vice president? Are there any other nominations for vice president? Hearing none, all in favor of Claire Wilson for vice president, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Claire Wilson will be our vice president for 2016. Congratulations. I'll now open the floor for nominations for legislative rep.
I'd like to nominate our latest board member, Director Liz Drake to be the legislative representative.
Do I hear a second?
I'd second that.
Are there any other nominations for legislative representative? Are there any other nominations for legislative representative? Hearing none, all in favor of Liz Drake for our legislative representative for 2016 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous for our legislative representative. So next, as president for 2016, I move that the policies and adopted regulations are in full force and in effect as they are now constituted and are subject to individual review and revision as the need arises. Our next item on the agenda is public comments, and we have two of those. There is a blue sheet at the back table if anybody is interested in making public comments. And at this time, I'll call Gary Robertson. Is he still here? He's not. He left. Oh, back. Oh, we didn't understand. Yeah, because we recessed and reconvened. Yep. And I'm not sure how to pronounce the first name. Is it Ariyaha Bailey? Araya, sorry, Araya.
It is pretty obvious that the world is moving towards technology at a very fast pace. And I think it's the educator's responsibility to introduce and encourage technology as it applies to their education as a whole. I don't necessarily foresee technology replacing passionate educators. I simply see it as an important tool to help the education process and prepare students for the future, because upon graduation they'll be using technology almost every day, so why not start using it every day at school? That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your comments. Next will be superintendent comments. Dr. Campbell?
I'd like to start by just saying how excited I am about the partnership and the board superintendent team continuing to coalesce a shared vision for our students, for their continuous improvement, specifically as it relates to their learning, their confidence, and their ability to leave our systems college inquiry ready. I want to give you an update on three big items. One is the transition team. As you know, I have crafted and enacted a 100-day plan, and I am coming towards the end of that plan. Today, I have been in 33 schools. By December 17th, I will have made it to all 39, spending 2 hours at the schools. I've talked to now probably over 500 plus teachers, 500 plus parents, getting a sense of the organizational strengths as well as the organizational challenges. I've learned a lot. Well, this Thursday, when our transition team gathers together, I'm going to give them all of the raw data. They're going to look for themes in that data, and then I'm going to create a one-page summary of what I learned throughout my 100 days, and I will share that with every person in our district so that all of our employees and our community hears what came out of that, to be very transparent. And I think there's a lot to share, but there's a lot of work to do. And really pivoting from that, our strategic planning team has had 3 full days of coming together around what are our core goals going to be, what are our pillars that we're going to work on, getting all of our arrows headed in the same direction, becoming really clear about the 4 or 5 things we're really going to go after, and go after with such tenacity for our students. So the learnings from that will really influence some of the work and strategies that you'll see in the strategic planning, the strategic plan. I want to also say that we surveyed our families. We heard from families who talked about the late starts being problematic around childcare, especially the amount of time of those late starts. And I asked a committee to be convened that consisted of our association leads, some of our team right here, our leadership cabinet team, as well as some principals. And they have come up with an alternative option that would meet the needs of our families who said that they would prefer an early dismissal, because that would be less impactful with less time spent per day. So you'll be hearing more about this. We'll be bringing this to the board for approval looking for their approval of this alternative schedule. So those are some of the things that we're working on. There are lots more. I could certainly spend hours talking to you about them, but at the end of the day, we're always focused on what's best for our students.
Great. Thank you. Now we'll do board members' comments. And Director Drake, would you like to start us?
I'm very pleased to start. I'm excited, proud, and really honored to have been elected to the school board, Federal Way School District School Board. I'm really looking forward to being an involved, informed member of this amazingly positive school district team. Federal Way School District, as has been alluded to a few times tonight, has had some troubling times. I would like to share with you a day that I spent last week with the System-Wide Strategic Plan Day, where parents, students, staff, faculty, administration, community members came together, and moving forward as one is the vision. And it's a vision that will make the difference for every student. The single-minded focus that I felt sitting in that room, walking around, engaging in some of the conversations going on as people were pulling together the vision for every student to be successful, every student to reach their potential, every student to be college career ready. It was amazing. And I've got to say, Dr. Tammy Campbell, it is such a pleasure being part of the team that you are putting together and the work that is going on in this district. And I'm looking forward to being part of that. So it's very exciting, my first night.
Director Eto?
I too am very honored to be able to serve as your board director, and I'm looking forward to great things. I attended the strategic planning session last week, and I was really encouraged with the level of participation. It was an 8:30 meeting, started on time. Now, if there's a metric for people that are truly engaged, it's people showing up on time early in the morning. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how the leadership team now, having coalesced and working together, is going to implement the ends that we've set through policy governance. I truly, truly fear that there's going to be some urge to want to meddle. And that's why I pointed out how Director Wilson has constantly made us aware of not being those that gets their fingers in. Can you imagine if the board of directors of Apple had told Steve Jobs to make the iPod the size of a boombox? We don't want to do that. And that is why I wanted to see Director Wilson be the president, because she has that long-term perspective of policy governance. I really thought that also I come from a place of fairness. And there was great turmoil in the past, and Directors Gregory and Director McAnalloy both had their time at the helm as president. They were elected by the public at a time when the grading system was poorly communicated. There was foreign travel by the board members, and so there was a lot of turmoil. And they set the stage because they had a voice based on the vote of the community to put an interim superintendent, Sally McLean, in place, to put together a committee for the grading system, and they had a chance to influence what they believed their voters wanted. And I wanted to see that same opportunity given to Director Wilson, because she is the only one who was opposed in this race. And so those that voted for her should have their voice heard. And so I just wanted to make that very clear, that this is not about dissent. This is about fairness, and this is about caution, about heeding Director Wilson's constant reminder not to meddle with the education professionals and letting them do their job.
Vice President Wilson?
I really appreciate your support, and I also really appreciate the fact that we are 5 members of a team. And we all have different perspectives, and we each have an individual vote, and sometimes our voices of dissent, and sometimes that's because there are people that think differently, and it's important to have that different think out in the room. I will say in my time on the board in the last 4 years, and I've said this during the election, that we have had 129% turnover in our board in the last, since 2008. And next, the only other district like us would be the city of Seattle, and also have gone through the leadership of 3 superintendents. And so it's been very difficult as a board or as a district to move forward. So I will say that I am very comfortable and very confident in us as a team of 5. That the role of president in this board is such to lead meetings and make sure that our agendas are well planned and thought out. However, I feel as a member of this board, I will continue to have that voice being heard, and will continue with my belief that it really is around wrapping our arms around and not getting our fingers in. And but I really do want to tell you how much I appreciate that confidence and that support. And in my role, I think as vice president, as well as my continued role and involvement with the state, we as a full board will really be able to do some influencing in a much different way than I think we have in the past. We have a great interest as a board of 5 to first impact the students and families in our community and in our district, but then also think about what does that mean for the larger community. And I also would just say that I had the opportunity to attend the 4th and 5th grade concert at Valhalla on November 30th, and I just wanted to share that I went and looked at the priority standards, and I said, okay, if I was going to a 4th and 5th grade concert, what are the priority standards that I might see? Because I love to go and listen to music, but I also want to know, so what are kids learning, and what is it that we're going to be able to see when we go to the concert? And I just wanted to share that there are 4th and 5th grade standards for music, and there's some crossover as well. You could think about performance and vocal, language arts, and those kinds of things. But for 4th graders that were performing, one of their performance indicators or priority indicator standards was sings with others while demonstrating balance and blend. Oh yes, they did that incredibly well. If you were in 5th grade, there are 2 standards that really stood out to me. And one was performing music using appropriate expression for 3 diverse genres. And I believe anyone that walked out of that audience could say there were 3 different genres of music that were represented by the students who performed. And the second one was performing music expressively while responding to conductor cues. Now, the conductor you could not see. However, all eyes were on the black cloth that was wrapped around whatever the conductor was doing. So I walked out of there and fully saw and fully understood, as could the students, what it was that they learned, why they learned it, and how it was that they were showing us that learning. And the only other thing I'm going to do is take the liberty of doing a little ledge report, because we forgot that. Or is
Absolutely.
that okay?
No, please do.
And it's only one short thing, and I think if you have looked at any news or heard anything, it's around ESSA, formerly No Child Left Behind, and NCLB is now Every Student Succeeds Act. And last week, the Senate, well, last week it was passed. And the difference around, and I'm just going to do a really, I wrote some things down, but what in essence it does is it gives more control that's turned back to states and to local districts. There are still things like grade level testing in math and reading at 3rd through 8th grade and once in high school. But there are some things that are really now determinate on local districts. There's still accountability, there's still monitoring happening, but much more local and state and district control. The Senate is expected to approve the final version of this bill this week before it's actually signed into law by the president. And you may know that our own Senator Patty Murray has been instrumental in moving this bill forward at a bipartisan way, and really has done an amazing job, especially when we think about the issues of testing and high-stakes testing and those kinds of things. There's also within this law funding to help specific groups of children, things like groups of underachieving children, homeless, children with disabilities, children who are living in poverty, ELL, English Language Learning students, and also there's an addition of $250 million for early learning programs within the scope of this Every Student Succeeds Act. And the penalties are gone. The failing letters that had to go home to a large percentage of our families, not only in our district, but districts across our state, are not gone. And I think the one thing that should never be forgotten, though, is that the original intent of No Child Left Behind was to provide quality education to all students, regardless of their zip code and regardless of their family income or regardless of what school they went to. And so the law will change, but it's still a worthy goal, and it's still a goal that needs to remain in place as we move to this new ESSA. I was gone last week. I had a chance to be on the phone with Patty Murray's 2 aides in DC at the time the vote was being taken, and had a chance to ask them to pass on our thank you. Not only from us as a board, but from our state for all the work that she's done in moving that piece of legislation forward, and they said that they would do that. So we can kind of keep our eyes and ears open, but it should be happening anytime.
Yeah, so I've got a bit of follow-up because I am the vice chair of the Ledge Committee for WASDA. The vote of the Senate should happen tomorrow. And so the House has passed it. That's the biggest hurdle. There are a few changes from what the original Senate bill was. But if the Senate passes it tomorrow, it looks like this will be completed before year's end with President Obama's signature. So this is huge news for us to finally move forward in this area and get out from under all the sanctions that we've been dealing with. I want to thank the board for having trusted me to lead as a president for the next year again. I am only one of 5. I only have voice of 1. It truly is, as a president, just to make sure that I'm communicating to all members. And that it's just to run meetings, and that we all individually have a voice, and it takes all 5 of us, or 3 of those 5, to make any change. And so even in dissent, Director Etto, I see that as viable and what we need to do to make sure that we each have our own voice, and I don't see it in any other way. I just think it's important for us to be able to voice what we believe and how we believe it, but I do thank the board for moving forward and letting me serve in this capacity for another year. I did visit Federal Way High School last week. I spent 4 hours as they were an avid distinguished school. It's above just a demonstration, but they also have a distinguished designation, and there were 20 individuals from the Kelso School District there learning about how they are an avid school and how Kelso will try to move forward next year with becoming an avid school. So it was nice to be an observer, to watch that process as they were sharing and what that is, and how it truly takes a village to make things work, and the work that we're doing at Federal Way High School and in many of our other schools with our AVID programs to make sure that students can be the first in their families to graduate. Really, that's one of the big focus areas, right, is that we've got schools down to the middle school level and even some of the elementaries looking at it. And so I'm really proud to be part of Federal Way and the work that's being done around that piece to make sure and ensuring that we have all students to give them the best opportunity to be successful. And it was probably in that 4 hours what was most powerful is listening to the students and how they've become teams over 4 years, and family, and what they're going through. And one individual shared what she was just giving up because her mother had cancer, and she had an aunt that died, and it was a very hard year last year, and it was her teacher, her AVID teacher, that pulled her out and said, "You will do this work, and your family's here to support you, and we will pull you through," and she will graduate this year. So those are the things that are happening day in and day out in our district, that we're taking care of students in many different ways, and AVID is one of those to make sure that they are successful and walk out being successful going post-secondary. And that's probably all else I have to share. I did make one other error, and I said it was going to be a bit clunky tonight, so I actually need to open it up to the board for a nomination of reaffirmation. So if we look at the bottom of our green sheet, I would open up at this time for a nomination for a reaffirmation of policies, please. Or a motion, excuse me.
I move that all policies and adopted regulations are in full force and effect as they are now constituted, but are subject to individual review and revision as the need arises.
A motion, do I hear a second?
I will second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.